Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. Happy October. It is definitely getting very chilly in Jersey, so I know we are entering the fall season. But welcome back to another Educate webinar for the week. My name is Liana, and I'm the community manager here on our Educate team at Saros. Joined with me, I have Alex, our multimedia designer on the Educate team, who will be walking through our webinar today, all about how interactive menus can create more engaging experiences. She's also going to do a nice demo for us in studio. So we have a lot to cover and we are very excited. If anyone has any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to throw them in our Q&A box and Alex will answer them at the end. But otherwise, I will pass it over to you, Alex, to get started.
Thanks, Liana. Let me share my screen. Can everybody see this? Perfect. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining our webinar today. Today, we are going to be talking about creating interactive menus for engaging experiences. So my name is Alex. I am the multimedia designer on the Educate team, like Liana said. A little bit about myself. I have my Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Film and Film Production, and then my Master's of Arts in Motion Media Design. And I live in Texas, and I have a dog named Oscar who is 7 years old, and he eats rocks and garbage for fun. So he's missing a few teeth, and that's about all there is to know about me. So, moving on to our agenda for today. So, we've got a quick little webinar deck for you guys before we go into the studio demo. We're first going to cover why interactivity matters, some of the general principles of interactive design, the difference between static and interactive content, and showing some examples of that. And then we will jump into our interactive menu and navigate how to make it a engaging experience. So, before we do our menu, we got to talk about why interactivity matters. So, interactivity can help boost your engagement because it keeps the users more involved in the experience. Instead of passively consuming the content by just looking at it, the user is able to be involved by clicking, hovering, interacting with the design and the content. It's a great way for the user to be more interested in the content and have a more positive experience. Having a more positive experience also creates more of an emotional connection to your content and to your branding. And having that discovery element of interactivity can also feel really rewarding to the user. Another reason why interactivity matters is because it sort of guides the user through its structure and direction. Having different options such as clicking or hover states or animations that are triggered by interactions, all of those help guide the user in what they should be looking at or what they should be doing. And it helps provide a general sense of structure and direction that static content can often lack. It provides navigation without overwhelming the user. It's sort of like a lazy river, how when you sit in those tubes and like you just let the current take you and you might bump into a wall sometimes, but overall the direction is already there, the movement and the current is already there. You sort of just enjoy it. And finally, we have business goals. Interactivity increases click-through rates, conversions, brand recall. It translates to meaningful data on how users are behaving with the content. It helps make the connection between the engagement and the action and provides insight into where users are getting bored and clicking off your content or where users are spending the most time and, the most exciting part of your content. So having those sort of insights can help tailor the goals of the business or the business's content to meet the audience's demand. To understand how interactivity can be used to the best of your advantage, we're going to take a look at 4 different principles of interactive design. So, the first one is consistency. Consistency, along with clarity, can really help the bare bones of your design, keeping elements the same between pages, having those repeating elements or behaviors. Those sort of interactions can help a user feel a sense of stability. We as people enjoy a little bit of predictability, especially when navigating through so much content on a daily basis, so many brands, so many advertisements. Having that sort of sense of stability brings a sense of tranquility to the user as well. We don't want like jump scares in our content. We want to know that what we're doing is the right thing, that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So having that sense of consistency and repetition can really help your user, especially because it will ensure that if your user knows how to interact with one part of your design, they're going to know how to interact with another part because of that repetition. The next principle is feedback. Your design should respond to feedback. So clicking, hovering, having things that trigger when something is interactive, like animations or hover states. This sort of feedback lets the user know, okay, this asset is changing colors. I should click on it and see if that does anything. This feedback also gives the user a level of responsiveness by providing visual change, and it can also be rewarding as it recognizes the user's action and confirms that that's what they're supposed to be doing. So it builds trust in your design as well. Following that, we have efficiency. When using interactivity, the whole intent behind it is that it's going to create a design that enhances the user experience, not slow it down. So interaction should be created to and designed to simplify your choices, to clarify your content, to streamline the information. If your content is designed properly and efficiently, users are more likely to engage with it and also to return to it. And lastly, and probably the most fun one, we have delight. Design should be fun, interactivity is fun, it should spark enjoyment, it should bring a little bit of happiness to you and your user, adding some fun animations or colorful hover states or hover spots. Those can add memorable moments to your experience, which helps the user feel more engaged, more likely to return, more likely to share your designs with other people, as well as feel connected to you or your brand. All that being said, in case you need some more evidence that interactivity can make things look a little bit more interesting, here are some examples from one of our marketing webinars, I believe. So in this toggle section, we can see it's a lot of data, a lot of charts, a lot of numbers, a lot of text. There's nothing necessarily wrong with this, but if your user isn't already familiar with you or the content that you're trying to show them, this isn't going to keep them engaged. They're going to look at this, they're going to be overwhelmed, they're going to zone out. So if we click on this toggle, we can see how these static examples have been transformed into interesting experiences. Each of these have some sort of motion to them, as well as incorporating the statistics and the data in a more interesting and dynamic way. The use of colors and visual hierarchy tells the user what they should be focusing on and is way more likely to keep them engaged in what they're looking at. So now we're going to move on to the studio part of this webinar. So I'm first going to show you the iteration of the menu that we're working from, then I'll show you what we're working on, then we'll go to the back end, look at all the layers, and then we'll create the final page together. So if you guys attended our webinar around a month and a half-ish ago, you might remember this. This is going to be the menu that we're working from. In all honesty, I think this might be AI generated. As you can see, it's got the cheese nachos repeated twice, but this character looks a lot like a burger place that's down the street from me, which is why I chose it. So like a month and a half ago, we created this. It's a fine experience, but it's not an interactive experience. It's just showing the menu. It's not allowing you can't click on the hamburger. You can't click on the apple juice. We want to interact with it. So I looked at some burger websites, redesigned it, tried to make it more burger-esque. So we'll go through that. I'll explain things, and then we'll go to the back end of Studio. So this is what our menu is looking like now. This is our general homepage. If you hover over these images, you get this orange outline as well as the drop shadow to indicate that there is some sort of interactivity to it. Over in this corner, we have our hamburger menu. If you hover over it, it'll change colors, which indicates to us that we can click on it, interact with it. We have this pop-up menu. So these are all the different pages that we can navigate to. If I click on this, the pop-up menu will slide out the same way that it slid in. So now we're going to go to our full menu page. So this is our first full menu page. We can see all the items that we have available here. I haven't added any additional interactivity to it because I wanted people to go to the individual pages. So if we hover over each of these tabs, you can see that we have this checkered bar show up. This indicates to us that we can click on it, interact with it. If we click on the hamburger menu again, you can see that the full menu is now grayed out, tanned out, I guess. We can't interact with it, basically. So that's what that indicates. If I click on this, it'll go back. So let's go to our burgers panel, or tab, I guess, and look at our burgers menu. So if you hover over the images here, you'll see that we have this like semi-red, orange, opaque background that shows up. If we click on it, you can see that the background has grayed out a little bit to really help focus on the nutrition information container that's popping up. So we have our nutrition information, picture of the item that we're looking at. And if we hover over this X icon in the corner, we can click that and that will take us out of our pop-ups. Again, if we hover over this menu, open this, you can see that now the burgers is grayed out. So we're going to go to our snacks page, which is basically the same thing as the burgers one, but it's snacks instead. You'll notice that this is a little bit shorter because we only have four items. So I did make the page shorter. When we hover over the items, we have that red orange background show up. Again, when we click on it, same nutrition information. And then if we go over here, the snacks information is grayed out again. So we're going to go to the back end of this experience and look at the layers panel and then create the drinks page together. So we're going to start from the full menu page so that I can show you guys how I initially made this all in one page. And then I basically duplicated the page like 3 different times and used those pre-existing groups. I'll show you. That would be better than just trying to explain it. So here we have our big full menu, which I have put under our full assets. So if I toggled this off, all of our assets go away. So initially what I did is I started with our full assets and then I separated each of these into their own little container group and then save those to the asset library. So if I toggle off this full menu assets and then toggle on the burger assets, you'll notice that it is the exact same as the burgers page that I showed you guys. And I can do the same with the snacks assets. Initially, I had the snacks and the drinks separated into 2 different rows. Obviously, when I was polishing the pages and making them look better, I decided one row looked better. But this is initially how I set everything up. I saved each of those groups to the asset library. I do like to have 2 to 3 backups of everything. You obviously don't have to do this. If it makes more sense for you to just save it in a different file or just save it to the asset library, if having all of these here is too confusing, don't do that. But this is initially how I set it up. Then I duplicated this page, deleted the full menu assets, made the burger assets visible, and then deleted the rest going forward. So we're going to go to our snacks page to see how all of this is set up because this is the page that we're going to be working from. So I'll go into the layers panel. The layers panel looks overwhelming. Stick with me, I'm going to explain it all. So starting from the bottom, we have our bottom navigation. So if I open this up, you'll see that we have our dividing line, which is this line right here. Since I made the page shorter, I had to use these guides to help me make sure that the the bottom navigation was consistent throughout each of the pages. Then we have all of the text and then our bottom menu hotspot to take us back to that initial full menu page. Following that, we have the header. This is going to be our Burgers Forever text, the 2 flower icons, the dividing line right here, and then the hotspot that triggers that text color change as well as the rotation, which does that. I'm not sure if I showed that. I'm sorry. Yes, if you click that, it takes you back to the initial page. So go back to our snacks page here. Following that, we have our checkered bar. Let me make this a little bit bigger so that you guys can see. So the checkered bars here are going to be each over their individual sections. So the one that we have visible is going to be the one for the current page. So since we're on the snacks page, the snacks one is going to be the one that's visible. So those are what those checkered bars are. And then when we hover over the hotspots, that will trigger the interaction to show the correlated checkered bar and then hide the one that's currently visible, which I will show you guys how to do after we go through this layers panel. Next, we have our assets. For the menu titles, these are going to be all the titles that are not the current page. So as you can see, I have the snacks one toggled off. If I toggle off this boldened snacks, you can see it's just all the titles that aren't the current present page. And then our snacks click, that's just going to be a boldened version of the text, and the line is just the length of the checkered bar. So for this, I initially did it for the full menu. then I duplicated it, slid it over to the burgers, duplicated it for the snacks, slid it over to the snacks, and I will show you guys how to do that as well. And then finally, in this assets group, we have our snacks assets, which is going to be our groups of snacks. So under each of these groups, you will have the title for the item, the image. This is going to be our hover interaction, and then the square container where it all lives. Above all this, we have a jumble of hotspots. These hotspots correlate to each of these items and trigger the interactions for the pop-ups, which is the nutrition information. So if I go to our interact panel here, you'll see that on click, it's going to show this. This is our nutrition information container. So if I open down this group, you'll see that we have our X hotspot. That's going to be to change the color of our X icon and also to close the pop-up. Then we have our fries group, which is going to be the French fry text, the French fries itself, and then the square. Our nutrition information is going to be the actual numbers, the titles for the categories of everything, the nutrition information header, and then we have our container, which is just this square with the orange outline. And then we have our gray background to make this sort of stand out and pop. So that is going to be the same for the French fries, nachos, potato wedges, and fish and chips. Under our burger hotspot, drinks hotspot, and full menu hotspot, those are going to be the hotspots for our checkered bar. So as you can see, when we hover over the burgers area, it's going to hide this checkered bar and show us the burgers checkered bar. And then when we click on it, it'll go to the burger page. And that's the same with the full menu. You'll notice that we have this little red dot next to the drinks hotspot. That's because there's currently no drinks page for it to go to, so it's registering as an error. We will fix that. And finally, above all this, we have our last three groups, which are going to be these three. That's our pop-up slide out menu. So you'll notice that the only one that's visible right now is our closed menu. That's because our menu is closed. So if I open up this group, this closed pop-up hotspot, sorry, my image is in the way. You can see in our interactions over here, when we hover over it, it will show us this menu icon and it will change that color. And then when we click on it, it's going to show us our open tab, which is, this is just an open group. It's a different color. And then if you click on this, it'll close the pop-up. And then it's also going to open this pop-up. So under this pop-up, again, the drinks is registering as an error because it doesn't have anywhere to link to yet. The snacks is this grayed out, tanned out color so that we can't interact with it. Has all our other text, that dividing line right here, and then the square where it is all on top of. So I'm going to turn these off. I know that was a lot. Hopefully you guys are still with me. We're going to go forward and duplicate this page. And if you're wondering why I'm duplicating it instead of just starting from scratch, I wanted to show how easy it is to create an interactive menu once you already have the bare bones. You guys already know how to create shapes and how to place them. I think it's really important to show how you can use something that you've already made and just replace the images, replace the text for it, and make it a separate page, but you're really just working from the bare bones of what you've already created. Makes things really easy, especially if you have animations and interactions that you want to stay the same, rather than having to replicate that over and over again. Copying something that you already have or just duplicating it can make things really easy and can help you in terms of like time efficiency. So I'm going to go to this little ellipses menu here, duplicate the page. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this because right now, since our pages are the exact same, I don't want to accidentally make the drinks edits to the snack page. I want to make sure that I'm making them on the correct page. Then I'm going to go into our layers panel and I'm going to start from the bottom up. So since we don't actually need to make any edits to the bottom navigation or the header, I'm going to lock these. That way I can't accidentally move anything around. I have done that before, so locking them is a great way to make sure that everything stays put. The first thing that we need to do is we need to fix our checkered bar. So right now we have the checkered bar snacks visible. Since we are now on our drinks page, we want to toggle that off. And instead we want to toggle on the visibility for our drinks. In our animation panel, you'll notice that our snacks doesn't actually have any animations to it. And that's because I didn't like the way that it looked if you had animations for the current visible tab. So I only have them on the ones that are showing up because of the hotspots. Hopefully that makes sense. So, for example, on the snacks page, you'll see that these fade in, but the snacks one doesn't. It's just there. So, I'm going to go back into here from the drinks checkered bar. Since that does have animations, I'm going to right click on this, copy the animations. Then I'm actually going to go over here and I'm going to get rid of these. And then for the snacks one, I'm going to click and then paste animations. So that way all my animations are consistent and I don't have to edit anything else. It's just that. I'm going to close this checkered bar, but now you'll notice that we do have this drinks hotspot over the drinks section, but since we're already in, since we're already in the drinks section, we actually don't need that hotspot. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to drag it over. I'm going to press shift, that way it doesn't slide up and down, and just drag that over to our snacks section and extend that to the edge of our drinks checkered bar. Then I'm going to double click on this and rename this to be snacks. Now it does have that red bar because it doesn't have a page to link to right now. So we're going to change that. So in this interact tab, we're going to go on click and then we're going to change that to be snacks. And then on the on hover, we can see that it's saying to hide the checkered bar snacks. We don't want that. We want it to show that. So I'm going to go down here. I want it to hide the drinks one because that's the page that we're on. And then on the on hover, I want it to show the snacks one. So I'm going to also do that to our full menu hotspot and our burger hotspot since we're already doing that right now. So I'll start with my burger one. And I don't need to change anything else. I just need to change the checkered bar snacks hide to be checkered bar drinks. How many times can I say checkered bar during this webinar? All right. And then on the full menu, I want that to be the drinks one as well. Perfect. And that's all we need to do for the checkered bar. So moving on to the assets, I'm going to open up this menus title. And as you can see, I'm going to turn off this snacks one real quick. So as you can see, we have our full menu titles here. I'm going to toggle on the visibility for the snacks one, and I will toggle off the drinks visibility in just a second. But first, I want to make sure that it lines up. So I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to toggle back on that snacks click. I'm going to shift and then slide it over and make sure that it's lined up with the checkered bar. And that looks pretty lined up to me. Maybe one more. Yeah. So now I'm going to click on that snacks click on the actual text of it, and type drinks. And then I'm going to do the same for this group name, and then just toggle off this drinks. So you can see it just makes it a little bit clearer. Obviously, you can leave it if you don't think it makes that much of a difference. It just helps me in my order of operation for what I need to do next. I like to toggle off the one that is the current page. So then we're going to go into our snacks assets. Let me zoom out of this. I'm going to click on this and retitle this to be drinks assets because we are on our drinks now. So now we're in the real meat and potatoes of it all, which is renaming everything and replacing the images. So first thing I'm going to do, we have 4 different drinks that we're going to do. We're going to do water, apple juice, Coke, and beer. So starting from the bottom to the top, fish and chips is going to be beer. So I'm going to double click on this and I'm going to rename this beer. Then I'm going to go into the text And sorry, my mouse and my keyboard are over here. So that's renamed to beer. Now I need to go to the fish and chips hotspot and rename that beer as well as the nutrition information group. Now, you could add the image here as well. I find it easier to go through, label and name everything, and then add the images. So that's what I'm going to do. If it's easier for you to do it all at once, do whatever is best for you. Our potato wedges, this is going to be Coca-Cola. So I'm just going to name it Coke. Open this. And when you are renaming things, don't rename them just here. So like if I wanted to rename this to, I don't know, sheep, that's not going to rename it over here. That's only renaming the layer, if that makes sense. So you want to make sure that when you're renaming actual text, that you're clicking on the text box itself. So just a heads up, because I did do that a few times and it made me very confused. So make sure you're clicking on the actual text box. So nachos are going to be our apple juice. And then lastly, we have our French fries, which is going to be our water. Perfect. So just a little disclaimer, clarification, I guess. I do have the nutrition information and how big I need to make everything written down, because I do know that the pop-up images are 1.23 times bigger than our current images. So sparing you guys watching me try to do the math and also look up all the nutrition information, I wrote it down ahead of time because that would be embarrassing to watch me Google how many grams of sodium are in water, which I did do. So in our asset library, I do already have our images saved with the backgrounds removed. These are all from our stock media library. So I got them all from right here. So let me put that glass of water in our water group. And I wrote down that this needs to be 258. I'm going to center that as best as I can. And then I'm going to Command C or Alt C or Control C, whatever is your copy function. I'm going to delete that French fries since we're not using that anymore. Open the water nutrition information. Do that renaming as well, because now I need to rename everything that's within the nutrition information as well. I'm going to click on the French fries image and then paste my water image. The reason that I'm clicking on the image before I paste it is because I want it to be within that subgroup, that water subgroup. And I've just noticed that if you click within the group and then paste, it will end up in that group rather than having it end up outside of it, if that makes sense. So this needs to be 315. And that looks centered enough. Now, in our nutrition information, water is an easy one. Though there is sodium in some things of water. Whoa. We're not putting sodium in ours. Sodium-free water in this household. All right, so now we have our water pop-up done. So I can close that. Next, we have our apple juice. And our apple juice needs to be 290. Center that. Copy. Delete the nachos. Open up this apple juice. And again, rename everything. All right. 350-ish. I didn't do the math exactly correct, but do as I say, not as I do. So make sure you're doing your math properly. All right, now the nutrition information. According to my Google search, apple juice is 114 calories, which sounds low, but somebody can fact check me on that. 0 grams of protein and 28 grams of carbs. So we're done with our apple juice pop-up. Next is Coke. Click and drag our Coke asset. Make sure that you're placing your items in your group, otherwise they will not interact the way that they are supposed to interact. So Coke needs to be 120. And I like the little straw that they have. Copy that, open up our Coke nutrition information, rename everything again. Oops. $150. All right, and now according to Google, again, Coke is 140 calories, I think. Yes. 0 grams of fat, 45 milligrams of sodium, 0 grams of protein, and oops, 39 grams of carbs. Perfect. All right, last one is beer. And full disclaimer, I know nothing about beer, so this is probably way off. I did one Google search and went with the numbers that it told me. So if the nutrition information is wrong, my apologies. All right, copy this beer, close that group, open up our beer nutrition, retitle this, paste. This is going to be 240. And delete our fish and chips. Now, according to the Google search that I did, somebody can fact check me on this because this felt very wrong. 153 calories, 0 grams of fat, 15 grams of sodium, 1.6 grams of protein. Is that right? And then 13 grams of carbs. So I don't know what beer that was for, but I didn't know there was protein in beer. So anyways, now we have all of our pop-ups done. So that was the whole meat and potatoes. That's the whole difficult part of this. So now that we have everything done, the last step for double checking that everything works is our pop-up. So I'm going to open up this pop-up tab. And in our pop-up tab, you'll notice that we have our drinks. We can toggle that off since we're not going to be using that hotspot. Toggle back on our snacks hotspot. Scroll down to the snacks. Get rid of this underline. And then change this to be that orange color that I already have saved in our color palette. And then under our drinks, we want to underline that and then change that to this color, which I know is our underline color because I saved it there. So, and that's all that we should have to do. So now we're gonna cross our fingers and toes and we're going to preview this and see if it works. And if it does, then we can go and fix all of our links. So beautiful. Beautiful. Perfect. So now the last thing to do is to go back into here. And now we need to link everything that had the drinks hotspot that wasn't properly linked out because we didn't have the drinks page built out. now that we have that built out, we have to go and link everything. So we're going to go back to the very beginning, go into our layers panel, open this pop-up, and you'll notice that we have that red error dot because it doesn't know where it's supposed to be linking to. And then we'll change that to drinks. Now we'll go back into our menu page on our drinks hotspot, interact, on click, go to our drinks. And then on our pop-up, drinks, on click, drinks, update. Oops. And you want to make sure that you hide those pop-ups because otherwise, when you go on the page, the pop-up will just be there. So in our burgers page, we want to go to our drinks hotspot, interact, go to our drinks, pop-up, drinks, drinks, close that hotspot or that pop-up, sorry. And then last but not least, drink, drinks, and drinks. Beautiful. And now if we refresh this, I don't even think we need to refresh it. I think it does it by itself. If we click on all of this, yay, it works. So now all of our links are properly correlated. So that is how to do that in Studio. We will share this experience with you guys as well. I will delete the strings page. That way you can build it out for yourself if you want to use this as a template or just see how everything is built behind the scenes and do more of a like intensive deep dive into it. We will share this along with the webinar deck for you guys. So that's all I have for you guys today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to hand it back to Liana.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Alex, for walking through that great build along. Like Alex said, if you guys haven't noticed or visited educate.com recently, educate.ceros.com, we've made some new changes to it. So you'll now be able to find all of our on-demand webinars in the webinars section, and then you can toggle for on-demand webinars specifically. So we will post the recording of today's webinar, as well as that import link, the deck, and anything else Alex covered today so that you guys can import it into your own accounts. Try out what Alex created in her experience today. But again, if you guys haven't checked out all of the new and exciting changes we've made to our Educate site, definitely go check them out now. But I hope everyone had or is going to have a great rest of your day and your weekend. But we will see you all in the community soon. And again, thank you guys all so much for joining.
Thanks for joining.
Bye, everyone.